Hey, good morning. I'm really happy to be here. I'm not sure if I'm more excited to talk about the company or to talk about the technology, but I want to first just introduce myself and the technology, or myself and our company. So I'm the COO of Salamigo, been here about 2 years, and have worked in retail, worked in QSR for most of my life, and with the exception of 12 years where I worked for an events company. So I got to be the people helping with this kind of stuff for a decade. So one thing as COO that is kind of fun is that I also own the technology group. So a lot of the technology solutions that my technology group comes up with, my operations group, obviously we're very tightly aligned. And I'll have each of them complain about the other, which I think sometimes they forget. I am actually in charge of everybody, so I don't really care. Let's just figure it out. But for our guests, we have a pretty typical stack. Olo, HME on the drive-thru side, NCR. For our team members, it's Workday. And so nothing like utterly surprising there. And I think one of my kind of call-outs here is I think a lot of us look very similar when you start looking at how many people use the same platforms, whether it's Paytronics or Olo or whoever, or Menu or whoever, some of the newer ones. There's only so many ways to take an order, and I think a lot of us are starting to look a little bit homogenous here. So how do we start standing out? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. And where we do have a lot more technology that's unique is for our food. So I mentioned we're two businesses. We have the manufacturing side and the drive-thru side, or the restaurant side. So on the manufacturing side, we just opened up, to give you a sense of scale, this isn't like some 10,000 square foot facility where we make dressings when we're not busy serving customers. We just opened a 100,000 square foot facility in Dallas to do food manufacturing. And it's designed to support 400 stores. So we are thinking very long term here. We don't do our own food distribution. We actually have a third party that does that. We were doing that 9 months ago. So we had kind of built our own in many ways, but we do realize there are things that we shouldn't be in, and food distribution is one of them. But food manufacturing, we really feel is a competitive edge for us and helps us keep that price down and offer a superior product. So the manufacturing automation that goes into that for a 100,000 square foot facility where you are generating, there's that music Brett talked about, where you're generating the remain by the tens of thousands of pounds a day is extreme, and we just upped it considerably with this new facility that we're opening up. The efficiency that goes into tying these machines together, all the information that comes out of it, how do you reduce labor? It's just like a giant store, but it's a manufacturing facility. How do you reduce labor and try to take out the steps at significant scale? Quality, like you can't have, especially in produce, there's no kill step, so we're not cooking anything, so that has to be number one. So we have quality baked in all the way from where we get it from the grower to what we do with it, how we send it to the distributor, and how it goes to the store. So if there's ever a recall, we can go all the way back down to the store and be like, all right, this was stuff we made as a manufacturer, and we know we have to take it out. Thankfully, we haven't had to do that. And then, of course, tracking. How do you track all the way wherever anything is, how many days it has left between, because you only get 6 days in some of our products between us touching them and them getting to the store. So you have to manage this day by day and understand where that's at. So I mentioned when we talk about tech for the guest that it's kind of all looking a little similar. I will say what we're doing here and where I see this as fun is, first, these are all small startups that we're working with. None of these are established companies. And if you're not comfortable working with them, I was lucky enough to do a lot of this in my last job. I would definitely embrace it. They're not going to come in with a price list and the product all thought out. They're basically smart people that don't know the industry and are like, what do you think? And you get some new thinking with that, though, because they're not stuck in the industry. They haven't done it the same way. But they're wicked smart about the tech and what the tech can do. And with the advances in, see, I went almost half of it without saying the letters AI. The advances in AI, the advances in underlying tech and what's available with the cloud, like there's so much of it changing so fast, it's impossible for all of us to stay caught up. These guys stay caught up. And that's what I like about these startups. You get to learn from them. And, because today's innovation is tomorrow's expectation. So what was innovative 10 years ago, people are like, well, that's table stakes now. What are you doing for me lately? And my best example of that is FedEx. You know, FedEx created the concept of tracking your package. And I ended up working there for about 5 years. And they hung on to that for like 20 years, even though everybody else started tracking packages and Amazon out-tracked them and out-serviced them. But they were still talking about that. Well, nobody found that innovative anymore. It's like people now have grown up with this. So, and for anybody that's got older kids, like I've got 18 and a 20-year-old, they don't hesitate to tell me when there's any problem with the tech. And their expectations are much, much higher than, you know, some of the Gen Xers. So let's talk about some of what we're doing. Camera pilots for drive-through. So the majority of our business is drive-through. That's how we started. We have 2 stores where we're running camera pilots with I'm not going to use any vendor names here, but we have 2 stores where we're running camera pilots for the drive-through, and we are tracking everything from wait times before they pull in, drive-offs, when they drive up, see the queue is long and decide not to stay. When does that happen? If the queue is 8 cars long, do they leave? If it's 9 cars long? And the mobile pickup lane that I mentioned earlier, how do we track that? How long do they wait there? Because our heritage has been drive-through, we focus so much on it. Sometimes our mobile customers, our mobile pickup customers get the short end of that, and they're not viewed as equal as they should. So we want to see, is that actually happening? The Windows time is 45 seconds, but the mobile pickup time is 2 minutes. Okay, well that's ridiculous. It shouldn't be 2 minutes because they've already ordered it and we just have to hand it to them. But these are the things that this is doing. Now, it's also capturing other information, in particular gender of the driver, which we're finding interesting because we don't have a loyalty program. Given the value orientation, we're not going to have a loyalty program. So we don't have a ton of data like that available. So just finding even gender, is it male or female picking it up? That's interesting. Does it differ with the person picking it up in the mobile versus the drive-through? Does it differ by time of day? You know, we're primarily lunch business, but breakfast actually skews more male and lunch skews more female. So why is that? And trying to figure, you know, these things out. Again, this is only 2 stores, but there's no reason to believe you can't look at a few stores and extrapolate out the data. Or if this works, and this is only 3 months in, you know, maybe we can do something else fun with it. But I don't know the exact goal here other than to learn. And I think that's the other thing to get comfortable with, because my CEO gives me shit sometimes about this, and I'm like, well, because he is stuck a little on all the old tech, and I'm like, what are we missing by not doing these things? It's 2 stores, it's 1 guy, he's spending a few hours a week working with this provider. It's not that much of an investment of time. They tend to do most of the work. They do the installs, they'll do the monitoring. These small guys have a lot vested in making it work. So leverage it and take advantage of it. Camera pilots for walk-up. So if you order online, you can either go through the drive-thru to pick it up. If we have a mobile pickup lane, you can go there, or you can park and walk up. Now, our biggest population of stores is Phoenix and Dallas. It gets really hot in both of those cities. So at lunch, if you're parking and walking up, and you're standing there even 5 minutes, you are pissed off, like very, very quickly. We hear about it because I see it all in the guest comments. And they don't want to walk back to their car because they think we're going to forget them. So they're like, I'm going to stand here and wait until I get my product. And then they start sweating and they're mad and like, we're trying. So, but how long are they sitting there? We just rolled out DoorDash 3 months ago. And we know that would create a lot more walk-up traffic. We watched that time spike as soon as DoorDash was introduced at the stores that we're doing this at. This is 2 different stores that we're doing this at much higher volumes. So we wanted to learn that. Same thing. What kind of information can we learn about the guest? How often do they walk up and then they have to leave because you can't come inside the store, so you might go back to your car. Or you might get confused at what store you're at. I'll have time for questions in a bit. But I like the excitement. So, but what else can we learn about these guests that are walking up that are different than the ones that are drive-through? And the DoorDash one adds another piece of complexity. How do we sort out those guys? And our average wait time with DoorDash is 1:50, which their goal in general is less than 3 minutes. And that's not specific to DoorDash. That's just how we tend to operate. If you come up to the window and you're waiting more than that, we're not doing our job very effectively. AI for ordering. Everybody's talking about this. I have some really, really mixed feelings on this. So, you know, obviously marketing wrote the introduction. But when it comes to the human, I I think there's a lot of value in having the human in the process here and having that engagement, and we see it with our customer sat scores. I struggle a lot with taking out the human and letting the machine take the order. I get the whole concept. I mean, I'm bright enough to figure that out. Upselling is a lot of the big sell for it. You just heard the products we have. You're not upselling, would you like some fries? Would you like a large instead of a medium? We don't have different sizes, and we don't have a lot of sides. So we're not going to see a ton of revenue lift there. And labor-wise, most of these people that are working in the stores that have a headset on are they're stocking, they're making drinks, they're doing something else besides taking orders. So I'm never going to say never. We are looking at getting a pilot in place. We're going a little slower on this one. Also because I don't want to be the leading edge of this. I'd rather be the fast follower, because I do think once it gets figured out, it is, the language models are so small and so targeted. But if somebody says, hey, do you have nuts in nuts in your Thai dressing, and the machine answers wrong, that causes me a lot of heartburn. The machine shouldn't answer wrong, but they're also talking through a speaker. It's outside, it could be windy, there could be weather. There's other things at play here, and someone could get ill or sick based on how the machine answered a question. So we are gonna likely look at this, but maybe at the highest volume times when we have a second drive-through and we can't always get it staffed right, maybe this makes sense, but I struggle a lot with this. And I've been through plenty of concepts that have it. My son likes technology like I do, and he went through Panda and is like, I'm never going back to that store. I was like, why? He goes, the machine took it and it was terrible. I'm like, shit, okay. Well, I don't want that reaction. And earlier, when we talked about the CEO of Brooklyn Dumplings was talking about how guests would walk in and they'd look at the kiosk and they would get intimidated. Some of them are intimidated dealing with this, right? We're going to take the majority of our traffic and say, you're now talking to a machine. I'm not there yet. So I know other brands are, I'm just not there yet. I didn't have to write notes for that one. That was all just me giving you my opinion. Then the last one is AI for guest experience. This one I'm super excited about, which is how great would it be if we could have a transcript and listen in on every conversation between our team member and the guest. Well, we can do that in the drive-thru. It's all on that. It's all in that technology. Now, it needs learning applied to it. Like, we need structure and semantics. We can't just look at a bunch of words and do a word cloud of like, they said, do you have XYZ? And we're like, no. Okay, I need more than that. So there is a small company who has only 2 customers, we're hopefully the third, that is doing this, and they've added semantics. So we all have order guidelines in terms of how you should take an order and what the steps are. Ours is called and go. And are they doing the and go steps correctly? Well, these guys have looked at all the words, transcribed it, and seen whether or not they're actually doing the steps correctly. So we can get a report telling us that. So strawberry lemonade is our most popular lemonade. It's frozen. At busy times, that machine won't stay caught up. I don't know how often that happens, though. I just see it and I hear it anecdotally. This can tell me, because it can say, hey, we don't have any strawberry lemonade right now. Sorry, would you like whatever? Well, I wish there's some more seats if you guys want to come on in. I wish I had a way to do it. This technology can do it, and it removes all the people from the equation. This is where I don't want the people involved. It removes all the people. I don't have to ask a district manager to tell me why the store managers are not doing X, Y, and Z. Maybe they're cleaning the machine in the middle of the day. They shouldn't be doing that, but they do it. So this can tell me whether or not that product is out and what sales we're losing because of that. So very, very, very excited about that one. But what do we hear from our guests? They love our people. They love our product. They love how fast we are. Like, that's what's special about us. I would love to sit in here, and especially at this conference, say it's purely the tech. It's not. It's that. And I think a lot of great brands that we all respect, it's very similar, right? The brands we think that have a fantastic experience, yes, there's tech involved, but the people make up the difference. Even Brooklyn Dumplings talks about that ambassador that, when he comes in, the ambassador is the one that helps make the tech accessible to people that are maybe a little bit afraid of it. Now, how can we use tech? Well, we can make our people more efficient. We can go look for those stupid time wasters, and I spend a lot of time visiting our stores looking for the time wasters. And how do we create technology that takes that time out so that they can spend more quality time looking at the guests? But when I first got this job, I went on store tours, or many store tours as you would expect. The single biggest complaint wasn't anything about tech. It was the lemonade bubbler keeps jamming and the sediment gets stuck in the bottom, and then it gets stuck open and it just spills. 8 for 8. 8 stores I visited, 8 complaints about that. I was like, how could this be in virtually every store and nobody is working on it? And then my son started working at our store, and then he actually told me literally every day when it was jammed. So I started getting pictures, but we got it fixed. But that's the stuff that's bothering them. Not the report that isn't really accurate all the time, or the little bit of static they might get in the headset. On the tech, how do we help with the quality in the store? I mentioned the quality in the manufacturing, but how do we help with the quality in the store? How do we help with inventory purposes? It's very, very important with 4 or 5 days, 6 days of shelf life that we do the rotations right. How can we help make that easier? And then on the speed, we literally try to take seconds out. And technology has helped and hurt us there. It used to be a lot easier when we had a credit card and we just swiped it. Swipe, hand it back. That was fast. Just holding it there with a chip and giving it that second to read takes more time. If everybody wants to use Apple Pay, that's not a very time-efficient process. They're fumbling with it. By the time they get it to you, sometimes it doesn't. It's wrong. All those seconds add up, and we watch all those seconds because, seconds count in our business in terms of getting the speed through. However, what we all really want is tons and tons of data. There's never been a better time to collect data about your operation or about your guest. But how do we turn that data into information? And then more importantly, how can we take action on it? A lot of us are drowning in data, and we don't know what to do with it, or we can't figure out what action to take on it. So when I think about how to differentiate yourself, we have spent a ton of time building this data engine, building out our data schemas, building out our BI reports, building out just everything we can. So when we go to a new market, we went recently to Tulsa. Is Tulsa different fundamentally than Dallas, than Phoenix, than Vegas? You wouldn't think so, but the product mix is different. The buying behaviors are slightly different. The tastes are slightly different, and the data is what helps us figure all this out. Because in order to keep growing and to be able to keep doing what we're doing in terms of the cities we're expanding into, we have to be able to get better at predicting where we need to be in terms of real estate, as well as what product changes we might have to make for local flavors and local tastes. So the data is what's doing it. This is probably the one area I'd say we don't give to anybody. This is all our own people. We're owning this wholeheartedly because we don't want some small startup to own all of our data. We're fine with them owning some of the periphery stuff, but not this. So if there's one thing that I would leave with, it's own your data, invest in your data, because it'll pay it back tenfold. So with that, I think I'm right on time. And that is my last slide.